Kamala, there's something different in your genes.
Are they Levi's?
Oh.
Like a mutation.
Music! Let's go!
Oh my God!
Let's go!
Whoa! People are gonna have opinions about this. This is a pretty big retcon.
Bro, the 90s cartoon. More of the 90s cartoon in the MCU, please. More of that.
I love the music. I love using the music. They got a soundboard. Every time we hear the word mutant or a new character, you know, Kevin Feige's back there like, play the music, play the music. Hey, it works. It works for me. Love it.
Is that not normal?
What? What just happened? Oh.
Hey. Oh.
Wait, did she turn into her or no?
I don't know.
No, okay, so that's not Kamala. She wouldn't look around a room like that.
Yeah. What is this?
Oh, no.
That is I mean, that is much better than I expected. That is so cool. It looks like they swapped places, but they didn't meet. I think that's really cool the way they did it. I mean, what an interesting way to end the series. I'm so pleasantly surprised by this. I thought I was gonna be like, okay, she's recruiting her now. This poses so many more questions this way.
Hell yeah, man!
Why do they swap places? What is their connection? I assume it'll be answered in the Marvels.
And where the hell did she go?
This series overall, I think they stuck the landing, but leaves us with so many questions. As always. Welcome back to New Rockstars. Ms. Marvel did it! They finally said the thing!
Yes!
Embiggen, right? No, not Embiggen, but they did Embiggen. Captain Marvel's cameo? Well, very interesting, but I'm not referring to that either. Yes, the big M word, mutation. Woo-hoo. Yep, that's it. Retcon alert. Kamala Khan in the MCU is a mutant, the first character in the 616 MCU to be identified as such, but when it comes to that post-credit scene, what is going on? This is Inside Marvel, New Rockstars official after show for Ms. Marvel. We're breaking down the finale today. I'm Erik Voss. My Easter egg breakdown of this episode is going to come tomorrow. But right now, discussing this episode's many questions with me is MT.
The mutants are coming,
Is there a mutant? Is there a mutant?
Yes. But my God, dude, I'm so freaking excited to see more mutant integration into the MCU. It's about damn time. Let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think they should have said mutant like years ago. But now that they finally have, I think it's great. This just means many more great things are ahead. But yeah, many of us are having some whiplash. Like, wait, what does this mean for the Inhumans? What does this mean for Kamala Khan? What does this mean for the Marvels? What does this mean for mutant kind in general? We're gonna talk about all that this episode.
Hell yeah.
But let's recap exactly what happened. The episode begins with Kamala confessing to her family that she is the light girl, the night light, but of course they already knew. I like this. In the comics, I believe it goes down the same way. Like the family is already aware of it. I think that's wonderful. Muniba gives Kamala her new suit that incorporates the various elements from the different parts of her community. I thought it was a sweet moment. It's in the Milk Toffees box that I thought was really nice. Like everything great from this family just comes from a box of Milk Toffees box. Isn't that sweet? I makes me wonder, like, wait, did Muniba know that the blue part of the textile comes from Waleed, and she understand the significance of the red dagger sash? No time to discuss. It's just here.
She's just a really good designer.
So Bruno and Kamran are fleeing the DODC, and on this subway at the beginning, Kamran's like holding his stomach, and we're like, wait, what's going on? Did he get shot in the stomach or something like that? Did Bruno stab him? What's going on?
Is he pregnant? Just kidding.
But we find out that he had like this energy that was given to him by Najma. It's causing him to feel like he's being crumbled from the inside, which is just like such a horrifying thing for him to describe. It's so terrifying. Like leaves us with so many questions about what the Nor light is, and like, but at least I like that it wasn't just something that was an immediate power up. It was more of a burden and a curse on him. That he needed to be able to understand before he could just immediately start blowing stuff up without consequence. So they go first to the mosque where that Sheik gives them the classic MCU disguise of ball caps. I love that. Right? Like, here, perfect, you're good to go.
They have half of a disguise. Just need the sunglasses, they're good to go.
The kids all meet at the school where they get barricaded in by Agent Deaver's DODC forces. And all the kids are there. We got Kamala, we got Bruno and Kamran, and they're joined by Nakia, Zoe, and Amir. Zoe has this line, I'm like, I was just in the theater, they have the best lighting for like
this is just what
kind
I do.
of theater stage lights is the best light for for TikTok? I mean, those are pretty, they must have a pretty well calibrated stage lighting to have it be perfectly balanced. Cause I mean, if I'm thinking TikTok, I'm thinking of a ring light that's nice up and close. Look, this is just YouTuber talk right now. I'm thinking like the stage lights I had in my high school theater had to be like rented and brought in and strung up on tree lights. And they were not there for our rehearsals. We only had them rented for like 48 hours of the show. And they always like, there's some kid on the light board like, I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm like, just
the light board is the most intimidating thing sometimes.
They spilled my OJ on it. Oh no!
There's a fire.
The drama teacher's just like, Matt, what are you doing? And he's like, I don't know. I'm just trying to get tech hours so I can get my IB diploma. This was me for one of the productions.
I'm speaking for the
ruined
past.
So many plays. Yep. Anyway, they come up with this real scrappy plan of wearing matching hoodies and using fire extinguishers, using
that was really fun.
A completely unnecessary skeleton holding a knife that pops a balloon that causes chemistry lab foam. I get like the chemistry lab foam and like delaying it so that it would like, pop or whatever, but couldn't you just like put it on like a pull string or something like that, or a tripwire that it causes string, or you just like pour it in there and run? Like the fact that they had to have skeleton pop the balloon, it's more fun to see.
They had a lot of Home Alone time in that school.
Right. There was a lot of extra steps. We'll just say that. But hey, it was fun to watch. The regular kids get caught. Kamran and Kamala are stuck inside, but they're fighting using their Norlight. And Kamran realizes that his mother died and turns violent. Oh, we got a little thing I don't want to overlook. This moment with Nakia and Zoe. And Zoe says, well, just, you can tell people on your own time. And we don't go further than that, but I like that. I wish that they just came out and said what her romantic affections are for Nakia. Because in the comics, they have, like, Zoe totally crushes on Nakia.
Major.
But, like, here they just kind of, like, again, hinted at it. But, like, who knows if we're going to get a second season of Ms. Marvel? Like, now's the time to just say, like, hey, can I get your digits, girl? Like, go ahead and have her hit on her openly. What's wrong with that? What is wrong with that? We need to just like show people for who they are rather than have them like dance around it.
Right. I mean, I feel like it's coming in time. Like I do like, because like they don't really know each other that much. So like it would be like, I feel like I want to see them grow as friends first before they like go into a relationship. But like,
fair enough. I don't know
when
when we're going to see that though.
No, exactly. I do wish that there was something there because like I like that little hint, but like it's not enough because I want to see more.
Yeah. But Kamran realizes his mother died. He turns violent. Kamala has to try to restrain him. And then outside, Deaver's agents are firing on them. Kamala embiggens. She even says the word embiggen, like willing herself to embiggen. And I love that she uses the word embiggen. But then she like stretches her body out. I was hoping she'd go full Ant-Man here. I was hoping like a nice like 25-foot tall Kamala like flipping over some cars. That's what I wanted. Instead, it was just kind of this weird thing where like Iman Vellani's body was just kind of stretched out by like an extra foot on each of her limbs. And we didn't really get to see it that much. Like we saw a shot of her jumping. We saw a shot of her reflected in a car window. And then we had her shown for like maybe 2 seconds at a time. And then we cut away. We never got this big hero moment of her actually stretching out. Like all we really saw was what we had seen before, which are like her hands grabbing things, which are all things that like we saw in trailer footage. We saw elsewhere, like, it's fine. It's fine. Like, it didn't blow my mind personally. I'm glad that they went there. I just hope that they do more of it. I felt like the strain of the VFX budget. I'll say that.
Yeah, at times during these Disney Plus shows, you can definitely see, like, all right, I thought I was watching a Marvel movie, but, like, this is definitely still a TV show. Like, they do have their restraints there.
I mean, I would have preferred had you spent, like, maybe half of the amount of money they spent on showing Kamran's weird terraformation. And just, like, if you could just shift all that budget into more embiggening shots, it would have been more fun. But I'm not really sure exactly what he's doing. It seems like just kind of like chaotic explosion. He's just mad. Did it seem like he was terraforming the Earth with Nor light to turn it into the Nor dimension? Or was it just like, I don't know what I'm doing? Like the lightboard guy.
I just feel like his powers are just going out of control personally. And like it's this life energy that's in him is just growing out of him like vines. And so it's just like, all right, we're just growing from the source of this like this tree, if you will, like this human living being, and just like spreading out. And so, yeah.
I like that Kamala encased them both in this dome, which reminded me of the Terrigen cocoon in a lot of ways.
Right.
And like, I liked how within that cocoon, you see like his teal and gold covered Nor fading away and her purple color kind of overtaking it. What I want to know is she uses her big hand to just punch a hole in the concrete, and he's like, okay, bye. I'm like, wait, did he punch I assume he punched a hole into the sewer. Does he know how to navigate the sewers of Jersey City to get to the shoreline? Does he know where he's going? Did he punch a hole? Like, how deep did that hole go? Where did the Earth go? I mean, you know, at the very least, Tiamat on the other side of the Earth felt a little pinch.
He's like what? What's going on?
Logical pinch. Like, what is going on? And why is no one talking about me? I'm here. We went to Pakistan. We weren't that far. We were maybe 1,000 miles away from me.
Right.
The flights might have gone over me. We could have had Kamala peek out the window and see a giant me just kind of floating in the Indian Ocean. No. I don't think the flight path would go over that way.
Right.
Anyway,
I would have loved to see a Tiamat like graffiti somewhere in like Pakistan or something. Like it would have been great.
Or just a booth at AvengerCon of people talking about this.
That would be amazing.
A ski resort on Tiamat. Get your tickets here. The community surrounds Kamala, and Cleary calls off Deaver. Yusuf tells Kamala that in Urdu, Kamal means wonderful or marvel, making her their little Ms. Marvel. And then a week later, Bruno, the guy is headed to Caltech. He tells Kamala that he studied her gene profile and realized that there was something different about her genes compared to her family, and he uses the word mutation. We all lose our minds as we hear the 90s X-Men theme, but Kamala shrugs it off with just another label. Good luck, Kamala, because people on Twitter have opinions about this. And then we move on to a post-credit scene where Kamala's bangle glows a new color and her body suddenly scrambles into this ribbon, and it makes her, it seems like at first, transform into Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel was wearing an altered version of her suit, and Carol says, oh, no, and runs out of the room. And the credits confirm that Ms. Marvel will return in the Marvels the end of the season. A bit of applause. I think overall, I really, really like this show.
Yes.
It lost me a little bit in some moments, but overall, this ending just throws a lot at us. And I'm happy that we went on this journey. I liked it.
Yeah.
I liked it better, I think, than most of the Marvel Disney Plus shows. Does not overtake Loki for me or WandaVision. Those to me, number one, number two.
Those are peak.
I love them.
I really love those. But no, this was really great. And like it's a super nice, like wholesome show about family. Like this all about family. And I just really enjoyed meeting like Kamala's friends and family, and then Kamala herself. It's just like that corner of the universe like feels like home a little bit. Because like this is like one of the first families that are together in the MCU and not broken. I don't know. This is like we're seeing a real hero family. So like I'm gonna miss them. I'm gonna miss like my little Pakistani moms and dads and Amir, my big brother of the year. It's gonna be I'm gonna miss them.
Agreed. This was so wholesome, and I hope we get to revisit this community at some point, because it was delightful just to explore Jersey City and the members of Kamala's community. So many interesting characters. It really did feel like a small town vibe, and that's how you know you have a good show, is when you feel like you're actually living in a neighborhood for 6 weeks or however long it is. Now, we're going to talk about Kamala's mutant retcon this episode. But we're going to start with what just happened in this scene with Captain Marvel, because, I think that in some ways is more confusing and more interesting as we look ahead. But be sure to head on over to newrockstarsmerch.com so you don't miss out on your chance to grab our Ms. Marvel latest obsession shirt, Cosmic Daydream. They're almost gone, along with the ability to unlock a custom shout out to appear right here on Inside Marvel. So Frank says, ALP, you are the beauty in my pieces. Thank you, my superhero. That's so sweet, Frank. That's so nice of you to say.
ALP, you're a lucky person.
Jessica says, we love Ms. Marvel, the history and authenticity. Agreed, Jessica, we're with you. And then Caitlin asks, what if the blue arm with the bangle is actually Atlantean? Maybe Namor has the other bangle. Caitlin, I like where your mind is going. That'd be very interesting. Yeah, especially since it seems like a lot of Atlanteans in the MCU are going to be blue colored. It would just like I guess the question is like, does it make more sense for the 10 rings to be connected to Atlantis or to the Kree? I can make arguments for either, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
There's so much we don't know about the Atlanteans, but we'll have to revisit that theory after Black Panther Wakanda Forever stuff comes out.
No, for sure. Like I've definitely, ever since we saw those pictures of Batuma, I was like, oh, we got another blue person that's not Kree. So yeah, it's definitely a possibility for sure. Good thinking, Caitlin.
Good thinking, Caitlin. All right, MT, what's our first question after the Ms. Marvel finale?
All right, homie. First question of the day is, did Kamala Khan transform into Carol Danvers, or did they just swap places?
Yeah, so Kamala appearing to transform into Carol Danvers, I think was, at least on the surface, done to pay homage to the comics when Kamala first leaves that Terrigen cocoon.
Right.
Her wish fulfillment causes her to initially take the form of Carol Danvers. And it seems like they even paid tribute to that with Carol's new look. Like, rather than the red gauntlet-length gloves, her forearms are bare, and she wears like these darker fingerless gloves, which looks more like the Kamala Khan version of Carol Danvers in the comics, who like just looks like she's growing out of her suit. Like, she's just like awkwardly fitting these clothes that just like don't really fit her that well, and it's meant to be kind of like an awkward intermediary step to a final form.
Right.
But I think we should look more at Carol's specific Captain Marvel suit design here, because unlike it looks unlike any of her past ones. It's actually closest to her look from the end of the 2019 Captain Marvel, which is set back in the 90s. But when Carol returned in that post-credit scene, which was right after the snap in the modern era, she definitely had a new suit with more gold trimming on it. The Endgame opening sequence also was different. Then the 5 years later, when she returned via holochat with the shorter haircut, she had like a new look. That was the look she had during the final battle of Endgame. All of these were very different suits in this one. In those, they were like blue on top and then red around the midsection, around the legs. But now it's more like just a bit of red at top and mostly blue, like even blue boots. A completely new look for Carol Danvers, which is just interesting. So I think Kamala did not turn into Carol Danvers, like a doppelganger of Carol Danvers. If so, I don't think she'd be, if it was still Kamala's mind in there, I don't think she'd be as concerned with the posters around the room. Yeah, no. Because that's her posters. I think she would have, we would have gotten a shot of her looking in the mirror at her new form and being like, oh my God, what happened to me? Like, I don't think she'd be as confused about her surroundings. I think really what happened is Kamala and Carol swapped places. Now, I don't have a good explanation for why. I'm going to do my best. I think this is actually Carol Danvers here in this Jersey City bedroom. That's why she's not like surprised by her body. She's just kind of surprised by her surroundings. She's weirded out that she's suddenly in a kid's bedroom, a kid that worships her and has posters of her. I think that freaks her out.
That was probably her first experience with a super fan.
That's right. She's like, someone actually knows and cares who I am. Oh,
I'm barely here. Like, why do they have all these pictures of me?
I can't handle this. And before we started rolling, MT, you pointed out, and I think you may be right, that this scene even tonally feels a little different. And this might have been shot by the director of the Marvels. I believe it's Nia DaCosta. Like, it just kind of feels like a completely different energy.
Yeah, it felt like it was filmed differently. I don't know how to explain it. Like different cameras, like it just had a whole different vibe. Like sort of how like when we had that Civil War post-credit scene at the end of Ant-Man, I believe, where like with when Bucky had his thing in the when Bucky had his arm in that thing and like they were talking about seeing Ant-Man, I just felt like it was just filmed differently. So like, I don't know, maybe that's just me.
I mean, we see this a lot. Like I believe in phase 3, a lot of directors for the next film would direct the post-credit scene of the movie that came before. So, and you know, there was that vibe for the WandaVision post-credit scene where people were saying like the camera movement reminded us of the Sam Raimi camera movement. I don't know if Sam Raimi actually shot it. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if a second unit directing team did it, but it seems like what they're going for is the vibe of where we're next going to see them. And to me, what was most different about this was the production design of the way this transference happened. Like it wasn't like a glow of light the way it often is in the MCU. Like that's my gripe with the production design, is like, oh, just another glow of light. Oh, this one's a different color. What does this color mean? Like I'm getting a little tired of that. I want to see something different happen. Like with Spider-Man No Way Home, they use like sparkle portals, which made sense with like the Doctor Stranginess of it. But like there's so many other ways to show how universes are colliding, how teleportation happens, other than just like the glow of a portal. And so this one looked like a weird, almost like, teleportation to where her body was twisted into ribbon.
Right.
I
really
and
dig
it just
that.
looked really cool. Like it was like this mysterious thing that had me asking so many more questions rather than making assumptions. And I think that's what you want to do when you introduce new things.
For sure.
So let's ask why they swap places and how this happened, if that is the assumption, if that is the correct assumption. Well, the episode indicated to us that Kamala in the MCU, in the 616 MCU, is considered a mutant.
Ooh.
The Nor light was inherited from her great-grandmother, Aisha, a clandestine from another dimension. But the reason the bangle activated her, apparently, was that Kamala had a genetic anomaly, the mutant gene, which, unlike other genetic features like being an inhuman, the X gene, the mutant gene, springs up randomly in certain individuals. It's considered a dormant thing that's just kind of randomly spread throughout the population, and certain things can activate it.
Right.
Most of the time, it's just puberty, the natural maturation cycle, but sometimes it's like other things that can activate it. And it seems like in this case, the bangle might have activated it, but that bangle itself remains a mystery. Its origins are definitely connected to the 10 rings. And as of now, I still believe it is more connected to Kree tech, especially since Carol Danvers now is connected to it. I think this is, it might even be something empowered or linked to the Space Stone. And I think that is the other part of this equation, because we have to remember that Carol Danvers' cosmic radiation came from the Space Stone, came from the Tesseract. And the Space Stone specifically allows for manipulation of space, the opening of wormholes, the movement at the speed of light, and teleportation.
Right.
And we know that the bangle, for its part, can open rifts through space-time.
Right.
I think a lot of people are asking if this is the Kree, the Captain Marvel negabands, which open gates to the negative zone. I don't know if they're ever going to call it that, but I think it's helpful to at least look at it as an analog to that from the comics. And the negabands are something that is linked to the Kree Supreme Intelligence. It allows access to the negative zone. And I think it's interesting to remember that not every time, but often when characters teleport in the Marvel comics, they're not just like moving from place to place. They're actually traveling through some other realm or dimension, like even Nightcrawler. When Nightcrawler teleports, he's actually going through another dimension to go from point to point within our dimension. And that may be what this technology is. It may allow, through teleportation, by crossing through some other dimension, that other dimension might be the negative zone. I think that's a new realm that I'm very excited to see, especially as we go more into this cosmic direction with the Kree and the Fantastic Four. I hope Doctor Doom is coming into the MCU soon, and then they'll start to codify these terms a bit more. That's just where my head is at right now. Of course, it's going to explain further in the Marvels, but it seems like Kamala's Kree tech is what created some kind of spatial entanglement through this Kree cosmic-powered Captain Marvel, and that link created this humorously chaotic handcuff gag. I think that's what I think they're setting up. What I think is gonna be a really fun thing in the Marvels, where these two are linked through this tech, and they're constantly chaotically switching places, putting Kamala in a place that she does not want to be, and putting Carol in a place where she does not want to be at any given moment. At the end of the day, I still think the 10 rings are summoning the Kree to Earth. I think that they're gonna say that the 10 rings are Kree tech as well, and that the Kree will be chasing down the other bangle. Now the question is where is the other bangle? You could say it's with Dane Whitman. That's among the collections of his uncle Nathan in the UK. Maybe it's in a museum somewhere. Maybe it's with the Kree currently. Maybe Captain Marvel has the other one. But she's not wearing the other bangle when she zips into the Jersey City bedroom there. So it wouldn't be just because she's wearing the other bangle. That's why they swap places. I just think, like, I could be wrong. If they are turning Kamala into Carol, I just think it'd be weird to have the central gag of the Marvels be, hey, let's take Iman Vellani off screen for as much of the movie as possible so that Brie Larson can get double screen time. I don't think that's the case. I think they're swapping places. I guess the question is, if Carol is now here in Jersey City, where did Kamala go? What do you think, MT?
I honestly think that, there's a good chance that Carol Danvers was handling the second bangle, and like she picked it up, and then there was a weird energetic reaction between her own energetic singularities versus Kamala's, and so that's why she's looking at her hand like, yo, what's going on? And like they just swap spots, and Kamala probably went to that second bangle. It's like, all right, Carol had it, she touched it, we just did a weird switcheroo, just like the original Captain Marvel and Rick Jones, like with the negabands. Like that was their whole thing for a while, their whole like little gimmick. I wouldn't say gimmick, but like their whole little special thing is that they would switch places sometimes and like switch like positions in like space. So I really love that they're going for this angle, like a similar type of angle for the Marvels. Because like I do like you said, like I do like this. I like a good handcuff situation. It's like now I'm handcuffed with a super fan who loves me, and this is gonna be really awkward. And like I also have to team up with this little girl who resents me for leaving her, and like it's gonna be a really fun time. Like I really love it. It's gonna be fun.
I like that. Like unlike other post-credit stingers that just kind of like introduce characters to each other and give us a hint at production design, this actually gives us a sense of the plot of the Marvels, which I really, really appreciate. Like it gives us a sense of what their actual relationship is and the comedic tone of this movie, which is not what I expected at all. I like that they did something really different with the way that teleportation looks. I think that's fun, and I hope the MCU does more of that. Like gives us makes different design choices for how characters' power sets work, and how they are awkward and uncomfortable and burdensome. That's what's most fun about it. If anything, I would have loved like more of a goofy sound effect with that, like a whoop 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 whoop. No, don't listen to me. That would have been wacky.
Hilarious. I would love
but
that.
something. I mean, just do it.
Another one.
I think you brought up an awesome theory there, MT, that maybe Carol was trying to hunt down or track down. Like she was in some kind of like Indiana Jones moment where she's tracking down or trying to steal or heist the other one from some Kree deep storage. Like I hope that Kamala now wakes up and finds herself on some like, I don't know, some Kree space station somewhere or some Kree deep vault in Hala. And she's just like, completely thrown. The fact that she would be holding the other one, that would mean like Carol's like really stuck there. But Carol, of course, can just like, use she can travel around pretty quickly. She was able to save Tony Stark within like an hour, it seemed like. So she can blast back to Hala. But like she's going to be in the middle of some crisis, which I just love that idea. That we don't need to go through these steps of the characters meeting each other. Kamala already has this weird parasocial relationship with Carol. We get to explore like this in a very interesting way. I think what I have more questions about are like, look, I don't have a problem with Kamala being a mutant. I'm not too sacred about that. It just seems like there are a lot of things she is on this show. Like she's also a clandestine. Like she's also got Kree tech. Like the fact that I'm not exactly sure where her powers come from it's obviously not all from the mutant gene, because it must also come from the bangle. A lot of people were asking, did she need the bangle at all? I think to be this version of the character, she did. But it's just like, it leaves us a little fuzzy on what exactly her power set is.
Right. I think that like, I mean, me personally, I think that the bangles brought out her inner power that she always had. But like, it's going to take like the X gene or even the Terrigen Mist to activate a specific mutation within her blood. And like, again, like, they did play the X-Men music and like, it's very much implied that she is an X-Men type of mutant, but like he said mutation and like mutation is mutation and Professor Xavier is the like master of all mutations. And I feel like that also includes the Inhuman mutation. So like, I don't think that Kamala being an Inhuman is completely out of the running quite yet. I think that now that Disney owns the rights to the Fox X-Men, I think that now they have the opportunity to marry the concept of Inhumans with the X-Men. It's like, hey, the Inhumans are cousins to the X-Men because the Kree came down. They saw some really interesting X genes in our blood that like promised that we were capable of more, and they probably just locked down that X gene specifically until there was a Terrigen Mist, what's it called, trigger for it to come in. So like, I feel like the Kree saw the X gene and they were like, all right, let's make this our own. Let's make this our own little fun thing. And like, we're going to find out in the Marvels and moving forward that like, it's all the same thing. It's just another label. I feel like that's the significance of that line. It's like Inhumans, mutants, tomato, tomato. We all have superpowers. Who cares? So I feel like that's what's coming.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting interpretation, MT. I think the just another label line was just a little too cute by half because we don't really have a context. Like if it is just another label, then why say mutation and include the X-Men music?
Right.
Like it seems like Marvel wants us to think of X-Men in that moment. They want us to think of mutants. They want us to get hyped and excited that more mutants are coming.
Right.
Like I don't think this erases Inhumans existing in the MCU. At least I hope not. Like, we saw Black Bolt in Multiverse of Madness, and I hope that there is Inhumans in Black Bolt in 616 as well. I'm going to be disappointed if there isn't. But I think in this moment, you just have to be careful, like, explaining what this means. I hope we get those answers at like Comic-Con and D23. But I think this is like an example of Marvel saying, hey, don't worry about the label. But if you're telling us don't worry about the label, don't say the word mutation then, because you know what fans are going to do when you say the word mutant or mutation. Let's actually talk about this more, because I think that is like the deeper question a lot of fans are debating about. But first, we have some people we want to thank for helping us make this episode, starting with our friends at Brooklinen. Thank you to Brooklinen for sponsoring this episode of Inside Marvel. Summer is officially upon us and temperatures are rising. Luckily for us, Brooklinen is here to help you keep you cool and living in comfort at home and on the go with their best-selling bedding, loungewear, towels, and more. Brooklinen gives its customers hotel-level home essentials. They offer everything from snuggly sheets to cozy towels and robes, loungewear, accessories, and much more. By working directly with the suppliers, Brooklinen cuts out the luxury markups and passes those savings back to their customers, so you can get their incredible products at a reasonable cost. And Brooklinen launches new products, colors, and patterns all the time for their sheets, towels, and robes. They even have some limited edition collections that sell out fast. Make your entire bed feel like the cool side of the pillow with Brooklinen's signature crisp, breathable, classic percale sheets, and replace your heavy winter bedding with their lightweight comforters for the ultimate breezy, light as a cloud feel. The smooth, long, stable cotton will keep you feeling cool all night. And if you're not sure where to start, you can shop with ease thanks to Brooklinen's online quiz. Whether you're looking for the perfect set of cooling sheets, lightweight towels, or breathable loungewear, their quiz is the best place to find a curated list of high-quality products perfectly suited to your unique preferences. So head on over to Brooklinen today to keep you cool at home and on the go all summer long. Go to brooklinen.com and use the promo code INSIDEMARVEL to get $20 off your purchase of $100 or more and free shipping. That's BROOKLINEN.com and enter the promo code Inside Marvel for $20 off and free shipping. We also want to thank Helix Sleep for sponsoring this episode of Inside Marvel. I sleep on a Helix mattress and it's just what I need after a night of staying up late to watch that Ms. Marvel finale. As soon as it drops, Helix Sleep is a quiz that takes just 2 minutes to complete and matches your body type and your sleep preferences to the perfect mattress for you. Why would you buy a mattress made for somebody else? With Helix, you are getting a mattress that you know will be perfect for the way that you sleep. Everybody is unique and Helix knows that, so they have several different mattress models to choose from. They have soft, medium, and firm mattresses. Mattresses great for cooling you down if you sleep hot. Mattresses great for spinal alignment to prevent that morning ache and pain. And even a Helix Plus mattress for plus size sleepers. Helix was awarded the #1 best overall mattress pick of 2020 by GQ and Wired magazine. Helix has been recommended by multiple leading chiropractors and doctors of sleep medicine as a go-to solution for improving sleep. Just go to helixsleep.com/insidemarvel, take their 2-minute sleep quiz, and they'll match you to a customized mattress that will give you the best sleep of your life. Helix is offering up to $200 off all mattress orders and 2 free pillows for our listeners at helixsleep.com/insidemarvel. And thank you to Raycon for sponsoring this episode. When I am not dissecting content down to every single frame and hidden detail, I like to listen to podcasts, and I love listening to those podcasts on Raycons. Raycon's everyday earbuds look, feel, and sound better than ever. With optimized gel tips for the perfect in-ear fit, their earbuds are super comfortable and fit better than homemade Hulk costume your mom made you last minute. A costume that you should say thank you to her for, because she spent a lot of time on it. Raycons offer 3 sound profiles to match what you're listening to, plus noise isolation and awareness mode so that you can choose to be immersed in sound or be able to hear your surroundings when you need to. I really like using them around the house, like when I'm making dinner or doing chores. They're super secure and they sound great. Raycons give you 8 hours of playtime and a 32-hour battery life. You can even do wireless charging. With Raycons, you get the same quality audio as other premium audio brands, but at half the price. It's no wonder Raycon's everyday earbuds have over 49,000 5-star reviews. Go to buyraycon.com/insidemarvel today to get 15% off your Raycon order. That's buyraycon.com/insidemarvel to score 15% off. Buyraycon.com/insidemarvel.
All right, Eric. Is Kamala Khan a mutant? And what does this mean for mutants and Inhumans in the MCU, my brother?
Yeah, I think the implication of this exchange is that the MCU is deciding to make Kamala Khan a mutant in the 616 reality, not an Inhuman like she is in the comics. And yes, this is a retcon. Kamala Khan is an Inhuman in the comics. She was enveloped by Terrigen Mist. She entered a Terrigen cocoon. There was all this mist, a result of a Terrigen bomb that was detonated by Black Bolt when he was fighting Thanos. And I will say, this show seemed to be Terrigenophobic. They worked so hard to not say Terrigen and not say Inhuman. Like, they were like afraid to go down that path. And I think that was weird at the end of the day. Like, it would have been simpler I think they were afraid of like, well, people aren't going to get the Cocoon. They're not going to get the Mist. I'm like, I think they're going to get that more than what you did ultimately, because they threw like everything against the wall, like from alien tech that they never explained to a clandestine dimension that they barely explained to now the most associated trigger word among Marvel fans. Now, I think it's going to frustrate quite a few comics readers who are really attached to the idea of Kamala being Inhuman. Let's remind ourselves exactly of what the Inhumans comics history were. The Inhumans, like many things in Marvel Comics, originated during like the Stan Lee, Jack Kirby era and the 60s comics. But the coming out of that decade, the Inhumans were not like hugely popular. I think they were known, like Silver Surfer was identified as an Inhuman / mutant. But it's like they were just like another one of these things in the Marvel world. And they were around in the 60s to the 70s. They were kind of backburnered in the 80s and 90s, but there was like a really good, like, I have not read it, but it did win some awards, an Inhuman comic run at the end of the 90s. And then they came back in the next decade with like Black Bolt being part of the Illuminati. And then in the decade that followed, I think this is when they really got the spotlight, because the head of the other division of Marvel, separate from Kevin Feige, this guy named Ike Perlmutter, not the best human being in the world, but he kind of issued this weird edict that said, we will not do any more X-Men or even any Fantastic Four comics. We're just going to focus on Inhumans so that we will completely own this Inhumans storyline, and we'll be able to adapt it into movies and TV shows, and we won't have to do mutant storylines because, of course, Fox owned the mutants in the Fantastic Four. So this was kind of like, at least commercially from the business side, seen as like a workaround. And look, a lot of fans enjoyed the Inhuman stuff. And Inhumans came about on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and in the ABC series. And like, I really love the character of Quake in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I think a lot of readers, especially with Kamala Khan is an Inhuman, like elevated the profile of Inhumans. And since then, the fact that like Marvel Studios has been on the fence of how much they're going to fold in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And like address it and bring it back in, I think a lot of fans of those shows and of those comics feel like they're being erased. And I completely understand why you feel that way. I know why people are yelling at me on Twitter right now. Look, I understand Twitter is a place for you to vent your frustration, so vent away.
Be nice.
If you need to use me as a sounding board, I understand. Let's just try to be civil out there.
Seriously, be civil. But you don't need to be mean.
I love the character of Black Bolt. He is one of my favorite Marvel characters. I think he's a fascinating character. I love that we saw him in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. I was heartbroken when they killed him. To me, that was like the most heartbreaking kill of that movie. But at least his appearance on the Illuminati tells us the fact they use Anson Mount like that. I think that is an indicator that Inhumans exist throughout the Marvel multiverse, and hopefully they also exist in 616. They're making Kamala Khan a mutant, I think, ultimately as a kind of big picture retcon and restoration and a simplification, because I think had Ike Perlmutter not issued that big order to not make any new X-Men comics, who knows? G. Willow Wilson might have just established that Kamala Khan was a mutant. That seemed to be the case throughout Marvel history. They're like, we want to introduce a new character, just make him a mutant. But in this case, they were kind of forced into this awkward place that ended up leading to this beautiful comic storyline of Kamala Khan being an Inhuman. But I think it made for like a messier universe for some people at Marvel. Now, I think that messier universe was to their benefit ultimately. And I think this show would have been better off had they just called her an Inhuman and introduced Terrigen Mist. I think that would have been simpler, I think. But I don't mind making her a mutant, because I think that ultimately opens more doors. I don't think that my favorite parts of Kamala Khan are the fact that she's an Inhuman. And I think hopefully this doesn't cancel out any future Inhumans. I was a little worried throughout the series that the show was terrigenophobic, but I'm hearing rumors that Daisy Ridley as Quake could return in an upcoming MCU title. I want to see Black Bolt show up again. And hopefully we can have Inhumans and mutants coexisting. No one is getting erased. And understand that for every fan of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., every fan of Inhumans who are out there pissed off right now, understand that there were a lot of X-Men fans who were reading comics from like 2010 through 2022 who felt like they were erased and felt like they were being forgotten. And I know it's hard for you to see that because, well, the X-Men, what are you talking about? The X-Men got all these movies, had some of the most famous comic runs. Why can't you share the spotlight? I think that nothing happening right now is saying that we can't share the spotlight. So I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that we can get more Inhumans because it is an interesting side of the world. You know, you're doing so much.
I love the Inhumans a lot. I'm a huge Inhumans fan. Like, give me Maximus the Mag, give me Lockjaw. Like, I'm all about that. Give me Reader. Reader is my favorite Inhuman. Like, he's such a cool dude. So, like, I think that, you know, like there is like a bit of terragenophobia here in the series, but like we did see that moment where the Clandestines turned into that rock formation, like that looked very much like Terragenesis. And I feel like this is Marvel Studios' way of sort of, they're hiding the Inhuman side, I feel. It's like, all right, we're going to show you the Inhuman science, and then we're going to reveal it later on, but like, here's a different perspective, and like, sort of like how like the Terragenesis stuff manifests in real life and in nature, rather than being a synthetic product created by the Kree. And so like, you know, while they set it up and like they get people excited for Kamala being a mutant, because like, they don't really have faith in the Inhuman brand. Like it's people aren't really excited about Inhumans in general. Like Inhuman struggle with sales in general. So like they're just like, hey, if we just make her a mutant and like get people excited about that and then like push the Inhuman stuff later, like it sort of gets people more excited about Kamala Khan versus like with as a mutant versus then an Inhuman, because like people just aren't really as into Inhumans than the mutants.
Yeah, I think that's the unfortunate reality about the Inhumans throughout the comics is like, I think there's a lot of people right now who are acting like the Inhumans were like one of the biggest things in Marvel Comics ever. Like my friends, if they were huge deals in the 60s, they would have been as big as the X-Men were in the 80s. Like they were kind of backburnered for a reason. Now they did get some great stories later on. We have to acknowledge that. But like, it's like a lot of people are acting like they were there in the 60s reading these like folks, like, no, they were not that big of a deal. And when I said that they weren't a thing, I'm like using the term it was a thing the way Fetch was a thing. Like, yes, people said Inhumans decades ago, but like they didn't have the spotlight. They weren't really getting great storylines until the modern era. But I think ultimately, I'm saying this as someone who like would have preferred Kamala Khan just being identified as an Inhuman on this show. And I think that at the very least, like if you want to call her a mutant, great, but at least like say that, mention Terragenesis at one point, mention Terrigen Mist, mention Mist at one point, just to like give us a nod to that side of the world. But I agree. I think they're afraid calling her an Inhuman, and maybe MT, maybe we're all in the bubble right now, and there's someone at Marvel Studios is like, you cannot call this girl an Inhuman. There's gonna be a lot of people who just watch the show who don't understand the comics lore, and they're gonna be like, wait, she's an Inhuman? What are you saying about her? And then, you know, they're kind of prematurely worried about that reaction. Who knows? I don't know. Like, but that might just be the case. And they did use Illuminati in Multiverse of Madness, so that clearly didn't scare them for using Illuminati as a thing. I just think ultimately it is a little confusing, and I think you don't want your audience to be confused. I would have preferred Mutant coming in sooner, but I'm obviously happy that Mutant is now being spoken out loud now, because it means we get a Storm miniseries faster. I want an Aurora Monroe miniseries years ago.
Please.
I'm kind of furious that we don't have one. Every time a new Marvel title gets announced, I'm like, why is this announcement not for an Aurora 12-episode miniseries? But not a miniseries, like 8 seasons in a movie. Like, it drives me nuts that we don't already have this. And I'm a little thrown that they chose Ms. Marvel as a place to introduce mutants. I think they're setting themselves up for a lot of confusion. Like, they could have just established Wanda Maximoff in WandaVision as a mutant. They could have introduced a mutant in Loki. There's like all kinds of places. Like, I think in some ways, people are going to yell at me for this, but like you'd have less of a reaction if you just said like America Chavez is a mutant, right? Like, or like you could have had Billy and Tommy coming out of Multiverse of Madness, one of them just established to be a mutant. You could have had a character in Hawkeye, in What If, in any of these other Disney Plus titles. You could have had a character in Moon Knight, just call them a mutant at some point. You could have hinted at the existence of Apocalypse any of the times we visited ancient Egypt in Phase 4. And then that would have had the same kind of effect, I think, that mutants exist. But I think ultimately it's fine. Like I'm more excited than I am confused. But that's just me. I guess I want to talk about like, who do you think the MCU is going to identify as a mutant? Do you think they're going to pull this card again? Or do you think after Professor X's cameo in Multiverse of Madness, do you think we're going to get the next mutant sighting is going to be like a famous new X-Men, who gets introduced in the MCU?
I think that the term mutant is going to be thrown around as more and more people get powers in the MCU. I think that that's going to be like the grand term for everything. It's like, all right, you're not human, you're a mutant. You're doing weird shit, you're a mutant. So like regardless of like whether or not they're like Inhuman or if they're the Fantastic Four, I just feel like people like to just put general labels on things. Like that's just how the world works. So it's like, all right, if you're either human or you're mutant. You're either human or like you're inhuman. Like it's just, I think mutant is going to be like the catch-all word for everyone in the MCU. And and then like that's what's going to create like the rift between humans and mutants. It's like, all right, you're not us, so you're other. And so I think that, going forward, like a lot of people might just be labeled as a mutant, like people that aren't typically mutants in the comics. Like I said, the Fantastic Four, Reed Richards. I feel like when they first pop up on the scene, people are gonna be like, "You're a mutant. You're weird. Like your genes are mutated." It's like, well, I guess, but like we're not like X-Men mutants. We're just regular people. But I guess we're just, I don't know. We'll just take the term. So I just feel like, with Kevin Feige, when he introduced this next phase, he specifically said mutants. He didn't say X-Men. He said mutants. And I feel like that was specific and purposeful because of what's going on in this new phase where like we're seeing more people being activated and turning into like these energetic type of heroes. So yeah, I'm very excited to see what they're gonna do with all that and how they handle it. But yeah, it's just I'm just more excited than anything, really. I don't understand why people are complaining. It's fine. Just get over it. it's the same
I
thing.
understand why people are complaining. I understand their griping for sure. As soon as I heard Bruno say mutation, I'm like, people are not gonna like this. We speculated that they could make her a mutant in past episodes of Inside Marvel, and both you and I were like, I don't think Marvel would do that, and that's what they have done. So I mean, shows what we know, right? But I think that's like, I think it just gives us a sense of what their priorities are, and like. And which era of the comics they are sacred to. But we'll see. I mean, we're going to learn more about what their plans are at Comic-Con. I want to run through a bunch of quick questions coming out of this episode. First off, MT, Statue of Liberty. It's green again. Ooh. What the hell? How does that connect to Spider-Man No Way Home when it was
That
brought?
is so interesting. I wonder what happened.
I wonder what happened. These two different shows clearly didn't really care what the other one was working on. I have no explanation for this. I'm assuming that it takes place in the same reality, assuming that even after the multiversal wipe and the memory spell at the end, it was still bronze. So maybe they repainted it green again. I don't know.
Who knows?
Who knows? All right, so Cameron joining Kareem in the Red Daggers. Does this mean that Cameron is a new member of the Red Daggers?
I think so. I think that they're setting that up for Cameron to be like a member of the Red Daggers and to, sort of like find a new family because he has no family. And so like they're his new family. And so there's probably going to be some type of like, what do you call it? Tension between the two because like you said, the Red Daggers were fighting the clandestines for decades, which is like a huge revelation because like, how many other clandestines are there really? Like it kind of makes me feel like there's more and there's other half clandestine, half human people out there. And so it just makes me wonder like if Namor is going to be one, if like, coming like moving forward, like the reason why people have these abilities to do all these amazing things is because like they're just mating with clandestines. So yeah, no, I'm really interested to see if he's going to be a full-on Red Dagger, but it seems like that's the case. Yeah,
I mean, to answer our question before, I think Namor is going to be the next character introduced as a mutant because Namor is classically a mutant in the Marvel comics, and he is literally considered the first mutant of the Marvel world. And I think, like, assuming that he does show up in Black Panther: Wakanda Forever later this year, I think they're going to call him a mutant as well, because he is. In that case, I don't think anyone's going to bat an eye because he totally is.
Right.
Okay, another question that I had: is Cameron cured? Does he have like a nice balance over his Nor power? And if so, what caused that cure? Was it just like a nice heart-to-heart with Kamala?
I think it sounds cliche, but like I think it was the nice heart-to-heart with Kamala because I think that his powers are very much tied to his emotions. Because like we see that when he gets this power, Najma glows like sort of like green and yellowish. And I think that yellow, like gold rather, I think that gold is like the emotion singularity. And I think that when he got got that talk heart to heart with Kamala, he calmed down, and so his energy went away. So it's and like we see like when they first meet up with Kamran in the alley and Bruno and Kamala embrace, I feel like Kamran got a little jealous, and so he started freaking out in the alley. It's like, yo, my emotions are getting out of whack. So it's sort of, I think it's a very similar situation to America Chavez, where like her powers were activated by fear and emotions. And it's like, I feel like we're going to learn more and more about this, this golden type of energy and its connection to emotions, personally, but that's just my weird take on it.
All right, final thoughts, MT, about the series. How do you feel now that we're done with Ms. Marvel?
I'm going to miss Kamala's dad a lot, and Kamala's mom, and then her whole family. Like, I love that whole dynamic. I thought the show was like such a nice comfort show. And like, it gave me like it scratched the No Way Home. It's that whole Homecoming trilogy, like that whole vibe. Like I missed that. So like that scratched that itch for me. And like, I just thought it's really fun to like explore and learn about like partition and like Pakistani culture. And like, I want more shows like this where like we learn as we like have fun. Like Moon Knight, I learned a lot about DID, and like, it's just like and about Egyptian culture. And like, I just want more of this. Like, show the world of the MCU, like for real. Like, I love it. What do you think? How do you feel?
I think the show stuck the landing emotionally and cathartically. Like, I love this series overall. Like, the world of Kamala Khan, her as a character, her family, her community, the production design, the use of color on this show. It was such a, like, every frame just seems super vibrant and just fun to live in every week.
Right.
I look forward to these episodes every week. And it was just like great vibes, like the use of music. Like, it was such a great jam of a show.
Like, yo, that last episode had some bops, bro.
Yeah. And it was absolutely wholesome. Now, I will say there was a bit of a logical disconnect for me in many parts of the show. And I think that's fine. That's to be expected. Like a lot of these shows, like, episode by episode, I am kind of like probably obsessing about the logic and reading into things a bit too much. And like saying, well, how does this character know how to do that? Well, how does they know how to do that?
Yeah,
I think
that's our job, bro.
Really, the feeling you want is the feeling as you're watching it. If you're suspended in enjoyment as you're watching it, that's all we can really expect from these shows. I think that the biggest shortcoming of this series is just how ambitious it tries to get with the MCU world building logic, while trying to, if they're gonna make a Ms. Marvel show and then change the fact that she's an Inhuman, I think you have to make sure you're taking care of the logic so that no one has any questions by the end of it. And had they just established that it came from Nor magic from another dimension that was tied in with the partition history, great, fine. Then in that case, we don't need the bangle and we don't need the fact that she's a mutant. I think when you add those things on top of it, that's when we start to get confused. Like, if you want to say she's not an Inhuman, I don't think anyone's going to object that much. Some people might, but I think you just need to clarify that it's just this then, not this plus this plus this.
Right.
And I think that's where we got a little lost. I think as a big time travel nerd in episode 5, the fact they did the predestined loop, I would have loved just a bit more time spent on this show being more of a story about destiny. Right. I think the only way you can pull off those feelings super cathartic and satisfying is the whole story has to be one about destiny. And I don't know if Ms. Marvel is a story about destiny. I think that's maybe like number 8 or number 9 of what the themes of the show are. I think the show is much more a story about identity and the relationship between the self to the community and the importance of family values. And do you have to choose between your family values and your own personal interests? And Kamala Khan, by the end, was able to fuse the two, was able to find a path that her family, and what's great about the show is the answers were there for Kamala right at the beginning. Her parents are huge Avengers nerds. The fact that Muniba spent all this time making 2 Hulk costumes and her dad put paint on his face in the opening episode. And our heart broke for Kamala in that moment because I think we all knew instinctively, Kamala, the answers are right there.
Right.
Your family is the answer. Just find a way to geek out with your family. And that's why I think it was so beautiful that the family already knew at the end. So for me, as someone who had honestly buried a lot of my high school experience and had forgotten a lot of what it meant to be a kid, this show was just kind of a fun reminder of how, well, first how anxious being a kid can feel, but how fun it can be just to like goof around with your friends backstage in the theater in your high school, or to like figure out what college you're going to, or how awkward it is to talk to a guidance counselor and to try to plan out your whole future. Yeah, I think ultimately this series was a lot of fun and tonally really great. And I agree with you, MT. I want to see more of this kind of thing in the MCU. I appreciate the big swings that happened on this show. I just think the Marvel Studios machinations of what exactly Kamala Khan is just got a little too overstuffed with explanation and would have benefited from just a simplified one answer to that question as opposed to three.
Right. Like, for sure. I agree.
But we thank everyone who worked on the show for taking us to this part of the world. This was a blast covering this show. Like Moon Knight, I really love one of these shows that educates me on whether it is things like Pakistani culture, whether it's things like Pakistani American culture in Jersey City, whether it's things like how alternate dimensions work as opposed to alternate realms or universes, or things like Loki telling us about like history of things like Pompeii and D.B. Cooper, or things like Moon Knight telling us about Egyptian mythology and DID. That's what I love these shows to do, is to help us walk away from the show. And I think my biggest, the thing I'm most grateful for is just this amazing Sufi mystic of Rumi telling us what you seek is seeking you, something that blew my mind last week when I finally was able to just realize what it means. And I think to me, it's up there with what is grief, if not love, persevering. But the fact that they quoted a poet from hundreds of years ago and we're able to make that matter now, I think is brilliant. It was truly brilliant.
Dope. I loved it.
And MT, I loved diving into this episode with you every week. This was a highlight of every Wednesday morning, just being able to connect with you and theorize, take some big theory swings with you, and just roll with it when our theories were disproven or when we were confused. I loved being able to unpack this with you every week.
Same here, man. Like, I love doing Inside Marvel with you. Every time we get a new show, every time we get a new thing, I just love talking about it with you, man. You're smart dude.
You are a smart man as well. Every time you say some theory that's just like, you know what? I didn't think about that at all, but that makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense.
I'm just a weirdo. But,
all right, well,
but before we go, just want to applaud Iman Vellani. This is her first role, right? Her first role in a major thing. So this is amazing. So great job, Iman Vellani.
Iman, you crushed it, and I cannot wait. I believe I'm gonna be doing an interview with Iman. We're gonna try to work out the timing of it. We're gonna try to schedule it. We're gonna get it on the schedule. I have so many questions for her.
Yes.
And I love how much of a Marvel nerd she really is. We're not gonna do the simple press stuff where we just kind of talked about, so what's it like to be on a Marvel set? No, I don't care about that. I want to hear her take on why 616 is not 616. I want to go dive into the deep end.
She's one of us. One of us.
She's one of us. I'm just saying, Iman, if you don't want to act in Marvel superhero movies, if you just want to be a new Rockstars host, the invitation is open.
Come on,
you can just be here. You can work with us. Anyway, thank you all for joining us. Don't forget to check out our merch options at newrockstarsmerch.com. Follow MT at MasterTainment. Lots of great thoughts happening on MT's Twitter feed. It's always a delight. And you can follow me at EA Voss. Subscribe to Inside Marvel wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.